Hi, everyone. It's Kelly from the Hub here today with Pastor Jim from Bergstrasse. Hello there, friend. How are you?
Good morning. Pretty good. So
Good.
it's Tuesday and it's a little chilly in the air.
It's fantastic.
I know. I had to get a blanket last night.
When I woke up this morning, it said 45 degrees, and I said, hallelujah. I was so
Yes,
excited.
there is that too.
I know. I should say I get lots of hate mail because I hate summer, but there are 3 or 4 other people in the universe who also don't really like it. So we'll see.
Yeah, I tolerate it.
Yeah. So we were chatting, of course, like we always do beforehand. And I think on this one, we're going to talk about sort of the big picture and the small picture about what it means to take care of your neighbor. So whether that's your real neighbor, or you're a government leader, or you run an organization, or you're a pastor, or any of those kinds of things, like what does leadership mean and how do you take care of people? So Pastor Jim, I'll let you start and we'll just, we'll chat about it.
Sure.
Unless you don't want to start. Do you want to start?
No, that's fine. That's
Okay.
fine. I'm good.
We didn't talk about that, clearly.
I know we did. So actually, I kind of think I was the one that sort of started the idea of leadership in our earlier conversation. And I think for me anyway, I have a different view of leadership now than what I did when I was younger, and especially when I was 16 years old and starting my first job. I used to be a burger flipper at a McDonald's. That was my first job. It only lasted 6 weeks, but that was my first job. And we kind of looked at our boss as kind of like the leader. And then for me, it was like, well, the leader just told me what to do. And I had to understand some of that instruction, and I get that. And, as a 16-year-old, I get that. But you know what? As I got older, it was like that model of leadership of people telling me what to do. I was struggling with it a little bit. I'm not quite sure that's really what I need to experience. And now I feel that I'm growing into a leadership role where leadership, in fact, I just saw a meme about this just recently, that leadership is not about making me look good, it's about making others look good. That leadership is really working with a group of people of whatever demographic, and encourage them to be their best person possible. And I think that kind of challenges us today. At least I know it does me, and I think it also challenges a lot of people that I know, because it's kind of new, because we want to be told what to do. But yet when we're told what to do, we also like, well, that's not right. We can kind of get face with it.
And I find that fascinating, because I always think that people don't want to be told what to do, that they want to be able to think for themselves. So, and you're right, I had that same view of leadership when I was a kid too, that the person who was in charge was the leader and they bossed you around. And then I thought, I don't know if that's really the style that works for me. And it's funny, because those people who were watching this who know me are like, yeah, that's right. That's not the style that works for you. And so when leadership showed up in my life, like on me, I made sure that I wasn't the leader that I didn't like, because then I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be a hypocrite about that kind of stuff. And I've always tried to do the best word is to say, be the shepherd.
Yeah.
Like guide and to guide and to coach but still, and I think you're right, it's about It's not about me. It's nothing to do with me. It's about these other people that I'm with. Let's help them find their best them in
So
whatever that avenue is.
yeah. So thank you for saying that about your experience, because that was also similar to mine, that when leadership got thrust upon me,
Yeah.
and I know that my early days when leadership was part of my role when I was in my early 20s and mid 20s, it was really a whole lot of go do this, go do that, you got to do that, you got to do that. But as I matured and get into it, it's like, no, wait a minute, that's not working anymore.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the word shepherd, and not because it's a churchy word, but just because it really is what we're doing. We're coaching people
Yeah.
to be the best that they can be, and quite frankly, I mean, it's part of church also. I mean, the church that I grew up in was a whole lot of, let the pastor tell us what to do, and that's actually one of the things that I'm working through right now. Is so like, I want to facilitate a conversation. I want to bring the players that are involved together around the table, and what do we figure out is the best? And it's like, for me, it is about bringing out your best gifts. What do you, we're sitting at this table together. It's a table that has everybody at it, or nearly as everybody as we can get. And how do we make those decisions that are for everybody, for our neighbor, whether our neighbor be right next door, or whether our neighbor be 2 blocks down, or whether our neighbor be across town. Um, it's how do we, when we're making decisions and we're making life livable and fruitful for everybody, it's taking everybody's value and putting it there.
Is it fair to pull that analogy farther and say and to talk about government? I mean, I've as a history teacher and as a student of the law and government, I've always seen, I view my leaders also to have that shepherd role. I'm not saying I don't want to be Pollyanna about it and to say they're taking care of me, but they are. We all choose those people to help us do the things that we can't do. Like, here's the thing. I cannot pave roads, period. Not gonna, I don't do that. But I elect people to be able to do that for me because they're better at that than I am. And so I guess, I mean, this is the old school teacher in me. That's a contract, right? I give you this and you give me that. So I see that as shepherding too. Does that work?
So I would not disagree. I think that is shepherding work. I think that we maybe as a culture don't look at it that way. I think we do look at it more as a contract, is that word that you said, because when you have a contract, it means you're going to do this and I'm going to do this, and everything's going to be happy. In a different context, and one of where I would be coming from through my faith understanding is, rather than have a contract, have a covenant, which is a promise, which is very broad, which can be very broad. Sure, that may have on there some expectations of how we would take care of each other. It doesn't have as for me, I don't think it has a clear corners as what a contract might have.
Yeah.
But I think too, I mean, for me, I elect government officials who I think will serve not just me, but serve our whole community. And I think that's one of the things that I think we struggle with sometimes, that, as much as we want to be told what to do, we also still want to have a voice. And I think, for me, I think our elected officials, no matter what level they are elected from,
Absolutely.
no matter what level, from the local dog catcher up to wherever, I look at their role as not taking care of me,
Right.
say,
Right.
but at least providing tools for me that I can use so that life is worth living, that life is value, and life has meaning. Are they going to get 100% of it? No.
No. And you know what? As
No.
high as my expectations are for those people, I know that it's never going to be 100%.
Right.
But you gotta, it's important. It's your responsibility. And that's why, you know, people always talk about, you know, like the hardest job there is to raise children. And absolutely. For me, outside of the family, the hardest job there is to represent people in a governmental situation, because you're shepherding all of those other people, and the pressure of that to do it right, to do it fairly, to do it for those people is tremendously challenging.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Raising kids was easy.
Next to shepherding all the people you have to do.
People, exactly, yeah, because we have these expectations of them, and the other part of it too is that let's not leave ourselves off the hook.
Absolutely.
I mean, we play a role in this too, in that we elect officials, and sometimes the person that I really wanted to see in that office didn't make it.
Yeah.
And
Or
but
they let me down.
or they let me down. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've had both of those happen to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, but who am I then to kind of walk away from everything?
Yeah, I still have to participate. I
Still
still
part of
have to, yeah.
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
because we're still living in society. You can't just opt out. I mean, I guess you can, but that's sort of not really how it works.
That's not how it's worked. And that's really not serving each other. That's just serving my own selfish needs.
Right. I mean, I don't know how many times you and I together have talked about it's not about me, it's about we. And I think that, you know, that's another, this is happens to be another example of that. Is you're right. And that's the hard part, I think, when someone lets you down, or when someone isn't the person you wanted them to be, or when your person doesn't become the person. Then what do you do? And the answer is, well, you are still in this, so you have a responsibility yourself to create something as good as you can. Whether that's with that person or not with that person, you still have a responsibility. That's your end of the deal. That's your part of the covenant.
And you know, Kelly, and that has happened to me a few times in my life in the last couple years, honestly, where, you know, people that have self-selected, chosen not to be a part of it, and that's fine. And you know, at a period of time later down the road or whatever, they want to be a part of it, and it's like, please, yes, welcome back.
Right.
Welcome to be a part of it. And I think that's the thing too, is I think sometimes we get ourselves too locked into positions and forget that, you know, if we're really truly caring about for each other, we need to be able to give and take.
Yeah.
You can still stay within your own ideals, but you also need to understand that your ideals don't match everybody else. And how do we respect one another? And sometimes it's okay to step back.
Yeah.
And step back in again.
Right. And you have to look at your own role in in all of it. Are you really taking care of your neighbor too? What's your role in this whole thing? Are you just giving up because of your anger? Oh, that's last week.
That was
last week. Right. Are you giving up because of that? And then, right, then you have to make that decision. Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? That's hard. And what's interesting is that, so we're having a whole political and religious conversation together, and no one's fighting.
That's right.
Right, which is fascinating because, you know, I mean, every parent probably in the universe has always said it's Thanksgiving, no one talks about religion and politics at the dinner table. And I think that's, you know, because things happen sometimes.
Yeah.
But this is interesting that we can, you know, we can have both of those conversations intertwined.
So my big vision of church,
Yeah.
and I mean that's a big C
Yeah.
church, not Bergstrasse here in the hill, but big C church, is that church reclaims its voice for our neighbor, and that we welcome and invite these kind of difficult conversations. And I think too often church is afraid to get into them because I think maybe the people that sit in our pews or watch over the internet are, you know, have a different vision of what church is. But church really is about shepherding one another, having those difficult conversations about giving life for one another.
Yeah, you have to not have the conversation, no matter where it is. To not have the conversation does a disservice.
Right.
Because then you're allowing everybody to sit and only value their own opinion. It's hard to allow differences sometimes, and it's hard to encourage a conversation about that too.
It is. It is.
Because I mean, it's not like anybody goes into this going, you know, let's make some people really mad tonight. Right? Right?
I hope not. I hope not. That's right. Yeah.
Right. Right. I mean, sometimes that's an unintended consequence. But the issue is, if we go through it, do we come out more open?
So my sense is yes, but I am also aware too that it might not be right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna take some time.
Yeah.
And you know, everything that we do in the world is never like that.
Right.
Never. It always takes time. And some people need more time than others. Some
Yeah.
people need to do their own research, which is great.
Right.
But there again, you know, I always recommend when I share this with people that, you know, make sure that you get research from differing viewpoints, because you can just pigeon yourself into, you know, one little thing, and
Yeah.
you know, you can find what you need, but that's not growth. That's not growth. So so one of the things along with this shepherding thing is that's just coming up with me right now. And again, this wasn't something we talked about earlier. But we're actually setting up some shepherding teams in the congregation that I serve at Bergstrasse. And the role of our shepherds are really to just keep in contact with our flock. And that each one of our shepherds would have, you know, a small group of households that they would just check in with. And one of the things that I'm going to encourage them to do is to just, not just to check in, to make sure everything is okay and, you know, whatever, but then also kind of ask them, what's on your mind? What are you doing with, you know, where are you? What's your world? What's your life? And I think one of the things that can help people that are in leadership roles, if they were to take some time at the beginning and just acknowledge what is on people's hearts when they come into that time and in that place. Because where they are will help dictate their openness or closedness to conversations that are what's going on. And I've done that recently, and it's really amazing how the whole scope of the meeting shifts.
Hmm.
Because all of a sudden we realize we're all human. We're all going through stuff. We're all looking to be served. And we're also all looking to serve. And when we can see the bigger picture around us of even just what our own local table is going around,
Yeah.
it gives us for me, it gives the energy and the assurance that everything's okay. We can move beyond this and we can serve our neighbor. We can help our neighbor without doing the work for them. It's leading them to the table. Leading them to a table where everyone is welcome, everyone is invited, everyone is loved.
Hmm.
And wouldn't that be a great thing if we could all know that our lives matter and that we all have value and that I'm being supported by my neighbor.
Right, in any way. And I think that, for the people who are watching this is, you and I talk about these things in terms of faith and in the secular community. And I think that that's what's so cool, is that you can hear this with all of those different ears and put the message into your life where it fits.
That's right.
Hmm.
Right.
Leadership as a shepherd.
Leadership as a shepherd speaks to me.
Yeah, I like it too. Could be a bumper sticker. Always the marketer.
Hey, we'll have them available next week.
That's right. That's right. We'll send everybody a couple. It'll be fun. Pastor Jim, as always, thank you very much. This was truly wonderful.
Thank
See
you.
you, everybody.
See you next week.